From the moment a toddler finds their feet, they are bombarded with a non-stop stream of risk assessments and safety warnings. We tell them that ovens are hot, that stairs are treacherous, and that running with scissors will almost certainly end in disaster. A child steps into a kitchen and they're immediately reminded of the hidden hazards of sharp edges and scalding surfaces. We scold, we instruct, and we condition. And we do the very same with our pets. A puppy is swiftly taught that the living room rug is not a toilet, that barking at the postman is unnecessary, and that stealing biscuits from the table is a punishable offence. And over time, through a mixture of repetition, discipline, and boundaries, they learn and they adapt. The mammalian brain, even in its most basic form, is remarkably adept at absorbing lessons of cause and effect to navigate the world safely. But we don't rely on instruction alone. When we're teaching our children about the dangers of hot surfaces, we also go out of our way to limit their exposure. We install safety gates, we turn saucepan handles towards the back of the hob. If we truly want to safeguard the household biscuits, the most effective strategy is to place the packet entirely out of the reach of the dog. In both instances, we warn of the dangers while simultaneously engineering them out of existence. We pair education with physical mitigation. We change the environment to protect the inhabitant. Now let's look at the demolition and construction industry. Here, the basic wisdom we afford to toddlers and terriers is completely abandoned. We know the statistics inside out. We know that falls from height remain the industry's biggest killer. We know that placing a vulnerable human alongside a 30-ton excavator is a recipe for disaster. These aren't hidden mysteries or unpredictable anomalies. They are fundamental, unchanging truths of our trade. Yet we continue to run sites that look, feel, and operate precisely as they did decades ago. The industry loves to wave its glossy health and safety accreditations in the air, pointing proudly to its mountains of paperwork, risk assessments, and mandatory site inductions. But it's all a smokescreen. We tell the workforce to be careful. We hand them a high visibility vest as if it were a suit of armour, and then we send them directly into harm's way. The hypocrisy is staggering. In the domestic world, we modify the environment to remove the hazard. In the industrial world, we acknowledge the hazard, leave it exactly where it is, and then blame the worker if they trip over it. We don't simply fail to mitigate these dangers. We actively force workers into potential danger zones by refusing to amend our foundational working practices. We're fully aware of the lethal nature of the man-machine interface. We have the technology to isolate machines entirely and to design site logistics so that a person never has to cross paths with a moving machine. Instead, we erect a flimsy plastic barrier and call it a segregated walkway. We actively encourage men and excavators to work in suffocatingly close proximity, relying entirely on the absolute perfection of human behaviour to prevent a fatality. It's a statistical certainty that humans will eventually make mistakes. They get tired, they get distracted, or their vision is obscured. By refusing to redesign our processes, we're effectively setting a trap and waiting for someone to step into it. We've substituted genuine engineering solutions with a culture of finger wagging. The industry has institutionalized the practice of passing the buck. The modern construction site is designed to protect the employer from liability, not the worker from injury. And why does this culture persist? The answer, as always, is a toxic mix of arrogance, convenience, and cash. Redesigning working practices requires intellectual effort, investment, and a willingness to challenge the old guard who insist on doing things the way they've always been done. It's far cheaper to print 100 safety leaflets and force a subcontractor to sign a method statement than it is to fundamentally alter how a building is brought down or put up. We've created an environment where the burden of safety is placed entirely on the individual at the bottom of the food chain. If a worker falls through a fragile roof, The post-accident inquiry focuses on whether they were wearing their harness correctly, rather than asking why a human being was walking on the fragile roof in the first place. If a labourer is struck by a reversing dumper, we ask why they walked behind it, rather than why the site layout allowed the dumper to reverse blindly into a pedestrian zone. We're treating our workforce with less protective care than we extend to a family pet. We accept that a dog can't resist a biscuit left on the floor, so we move the biscuit. We accept that a child will touch a hot stove, so we block access to the kitchen. But we expect a construction worker to navigate a chaotic, poorly designed, inherently hazardous workplace for 10 hours a day without making a single human error. It's an impossible standard, and the price of failure is paid in blood. We can't keep hiding behind the excuse of progress while our methods remain stuck in the dark ages. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And by that definition, the construction and demolition sector is profoundly disturbed. We have all the data, all the historical precedents, and all the technological capability required to eliminate these primary killers. What we lack is the moral fortitude to change. True safety is not found in a neat stack of signed documents or a toolbox talk delivered to a cynical audience. True safety is found in the physical separation of the worker from the hazard. If a task requires a human being to risk their life in close proximity to a heavy machinery or an unprotected edge, then the method itself is flawed and should be scrapped. If you want a biscuit with your evening cuppa, then it's probably best not to leave the packet in the reach of the dog. If you want your workers to go home safe at the end of the shift, then stop putting them in harm's way.